Hello. Welcome to reInvent. Thanks for coming. Glad to see you all, even though I can't really see, theoretically. My name is Yaniv. I am leading the Web3 go-to-market team at AWS. Very, very happy to have you guys here with me, and of course, Jason from Mattel. We have a packed up hour here to talk about just a few of the things that we have for you. I'm gonna give Jason like a lot of light to bring forward all of the cool innovation that Mattel have brought forward in the Web3 industry. But before I do that, I just want to give you guys a bit of an overview about what Web3 is, just kind of level setting about the technology. We'll talk a little bit about some of the industry use cases that we're seeing over there, some of the up-and-coming stuff that's mostly relevant for Mattel and other businesses similar to them, and then how to build a Web3 application on AWS, which I'm not going to go too deep on, but I will give you some overview of like how we are supporting you guys in your journey to build those applications. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to start with the 101 for Web3. And the first thing I'm going to go over is like why the 3? Like where's the term coming from? So typically, if you look at Web 1, we'd like to think of that as like your traditional e-commerce website where you have ability to buy and interact, but not really contribute. Whereas on Web 2, the best example I always use is social media, right? Facebook or Twitter X are platforms that you can actually interact with. You can write in the sense of creating and contributing content like a post or a like, and therefore being part of the platform. And so Web3 is taking that concept one step further, and again, going back into the social media example, think about a fully decentralized social media platform in which there is no Meta that owns the platform, but rather all of the participants, you guys, are the co-owners of that platform, and therefore you can contribute, you can create contribution to that community, and you can also gain rewards by doing so, which makes you a co-owner, kind of like a stock, if you will. So that is the concept in the basis of Web3, and it applies to both like the compute side of things, which I will go over, which is also decentralized, but also the concept of having like a community-owned project, a community-owned business, or a feature is just some of what those Web3 technologies enable. Now, commonly when we look at Web3, in many cases, not always, but often cases, blockchain is going to be the term that you're going to hear on how that's being implemented in fact. And so really what blockchain is like an advanced distributed or decentralized database that you can use to hold or allow a transparent information sharing within your business network. And so every new record is being stored in a block, and these blocks are then chained together to form what we call the blockchain, and are being immutable in the sense that you cannot modify or alter them without an agreement from the broader network. And so what that actually means is that if you look at the pieces by which a typical blockchain would be built from, there is the distributed ledger, which is just like you can imagine. In Bitcoin, you have parties that are being or exchanging, doing transactions, sending Bitcoins to one another, and these transactions are being written somewhere. And these are the blocks that I mentioned, and they form what we call a distributed ledger, which is an append-only distributed ledger that allows you to have like a system of record, if you will, of that state within the blockchain. Now, to get an agreement on that, there needs to be some way of verifying that a transaction is indeed valid. For example, I could go and say that, hey, Jason just sent me 100 Bitcoin, and write that as a block to the network. That does not obviously make it true. So that in turn brings about the second thing, which is a consensus. A consensus is basically an algorithm or a protocol that's being used by which all parties agree to this network verified transaction. For example, A sending 1 Bitcoin to B. and therefore agreeing that this is a valid block that then gets written, becomes immutable, and inherent part of the network. Now, different blockchains have different protocols for consensus, so you might have heard terms such as proof of work for Bitcoin or proof of stake for Ethereum, and so on and so on. And then there is a third component, which is the smart contracts. The smart contracts are essentially, or is essentially, a programmable layer of code that runs within, it lies within the blockchain itself and gets automatically executed when a transaction on the blockchain takes place. So this gives a lot of flexibility and power to establish a set of rules that could be enforced via a certain network of some sort, including, of course, financial transactions like Bitcoin or other use cases as well. Before I kind of go into like what type of use cases we're seeing, just going to mention a few of the folks that are running on AWS today with their Web3 application. That's obviously not a definitive list, and we have a much broader set of customers that are running Web3 applications. I will point out that while a lot of the names that you're going to see here on the slide are what we refer to as Web3 solution providers, so those are like Web3 native or crypto native companies that are born within, you know, a specific Web3 business use or feature or functionality. There are, and as the Web3 space starts to mature, these Web2 or traditional businesses that are starting to experiment, starting to go deeper into leveraging these Web3 capabilities as part of what they want to offer to their customers. So, of course, you know, Mattel is one of those primary examples, and you're going to hear much more about that. But we also have Itaú Bank, for example, who's one of the largest banks in Brazil, who this year built a new platform for digital asset custodying and service that they plan to offer to other banks, providing a variety of crypto and Web3 related financial tooling, and that's all built on AWS. But outside of that, there are a few of these categories of these Web3 solution providers. So you can see on the slide blockchain infrastructure providers, for example, like Alchemy or Chainstack or Consensus and NodeReal. You can look at, like I mentioned, digital asset and custody platform providers, because some folks like Itaú Bank would want to build it on their own and also sometimes integrate with some of these solutions for different pieces within their Web3 stack, and I will get to the stack later on, but some of them might just want to use, you know, core components to build those. And so those vendors like Fireblocks, Copper are building these tools so that whoever does not want to fully implement that on the platform itself, but rather just go to a vendor and have like the custodying of the keys, for example. Because one of the things you got to know is, like, for blockchain, to do the token management that I was referring to, you have to use both public and private keys, and those keys are becoming essential to your ability to hold, manage, and access your tokens. So some of you might have heard of folks back in the early Bitcoin days and even later than that have had their hard keys for Bitcoin on their hard drive, and computer got tossed away, and then, you know, there goes a handful of money or potential money. So there are ways to do that today by leveraging all kinds of both vendor solutions as well as key management options that are available to you on the platform to prevent and create much more of an abstracted and ease of management for those keys. Then we have NFT marketplaces like OpenSea. You know, back in the hype days, like the bull run of NFTs, and I'll get to that, OpenSea was one of those marketplaces for NFTs that got very large and scaled up pretty fast because of that demand for being able to have a place to buy and sell and trade those NFTs. Blockchain data and analytics providers like Morales or, you know, Chainalysis, Elliptic, some of them provide anti-money laundering, AML solutions. We have layer 1 and layer 2 blockchains. The blockchains themselves, like Ethereum, like Bitcoin, like Polygon, they often run some initial set of the workloads on a specific infrastructure, and then obviously that gets more decentralized over time. But folks like Ava Labs with Avalanche Network and Scroll and Polygon do have significant footprint of their network on AWS, despite obviously being decentralized. And then finally, we also have these dedicated platforms, these boutique shops that provide you with a comprehensive set of tooling for Web3 and Kaleido and Third Web and Alchemy to some extent would be some of those that I could mention here. Now, going into the industry trends and use cases. So there is a variety of industries and verticals that are coming in from the traditional business lines and starting to migrate over to Web3. And these are just some of them. I'm purposefully not going to focus on financial services industry. For those of you who want, we have a separate breakout session this week. I believe it's BLC102 that focuses on financial services industry use cases for Web3. So in this one, I'm going to focus more on the consumer side of things across retail, media and entertainment, esports, and I'll give you a few examples, and of course, games. And so with gaming, we see a very interesting trend. Gaming today or games that are using Web3 services are accounting for a significant portion of the unique active wallets that are being launched on the different blockchains. Some examples would be, and it kind of being categorized depending on how deep those games go into the Web3 realm. So it can start off by just a Web2 game that wants to elevate themselves by saving some of those in-game items, right? Such as skins and collectibles and avatars on-chain. And that, in turn, makes them transferable. It gives the players, the users, ownership of these assets. And in the future, it gives them like interoperability to be able to transfer those or trade those. And you know, the bigger those ecosystems, those siloed ecosystems evolve, there could be more potential, more ways and possibilities for these folks to have more ways to monetize with their in-game items, which today are very closed box into their specific game or game studio, or sometimes a platform if it's Roblox or Minecraft. And then some of the Web3 games have taken that one step further by really introducing more than just the in-game items, right? So we're talking about a rich set of economies and decentralized marketplaces, as well as sometimes a transition of some of the game states, things like health points or hit points or experience points that may be stored on-chain, which again opens up these collaborative opportunities with broadening the ecosystem. And those could still remain high-fidelity games just because their game engine is still running on a traditional game engine as it is today. I would say the next one up, which is the third category, would be the ones that have taken that to the extent or to the extreme of running the entire game state on-chain, which does today mean that those would usually be used for lower fidelity, turn-based games just because of some of the limitations that blockchains have today. And with these, volumes of transactions could hit hundreds of thousands or millions, something that the community and the technology is still evolving towards. And then if you look at retail, maybe some of you are Starbucks fans and have their loyalty platform. Starbucks have extended, and that's just one example, a program called Odyssey, which is a Web3-based solution in which they transition you through a set of journeys by the end of which you're able to earn points and make in-store purchases and potentially provide more value just by holding a set of NFTs. Similarly, if you look at Ticketmaster, they have, I think in March this year, launched a new capability which is called token-gated ticket access, which enables any artists really to be able to tap into that service. And the first launch that they've made was with Avenged Sevenfold. That was back in March. And what it was is really an experience of you purchasing a specific NFT completely separate from the Ticketmaster process, and then coming back in with your NFT and getting like a specific gated access just by holding that NFT to discounted tickets and all other kinds of experiences and benefits that they offer through it. Obviously, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and the potential here is really big. And you can see that happening in other areas as well. Like, for example, in games, I've seen titles that are now saying if you're journeying through the game and you can collect that item, which is now an NFT, you can suddenly get your next level up unlocked or something along those lines that really gets you excited and gives you a sense of uniqueness. Oh, sorry. And then obviously, Nike was another big brand that launched their .swoosh platform, and this really is kind of like a concept that shows all of the benefits that I spoke about on Web3, because you get the ownership of designing and becoming like the creator of your own designs for shoes, and even potentially being able to tie that back into the real world by having Nike print those shoes as physical shoes, and you, again, theoretically being able to monetize on those creations. So think about all the potential that's unlocked with that type of a community engagement in which you can really have that virtual creation that you can show, you can trade, and you can actually maybe also wear. So, when I look at, NFTs as a whole, maybe just to touch upon like a word or two, NFTs are named for non-fungible tokens. That is in contrast to fungible tokens, right? So if you take $2, for example, and you hold them one against each other, they're no different. Like, I can give you this dollar, you can give me the other one. It doesn't really matter. Their value is the same, so it makes them effectively the same. Whereas non-fungible tokens are unique. So I can have two tokens or NFTs that hold the same image, but they would not be the same token. And the way it is being implemented is each of them has a set of metadata that is being created and tied into that, along with the identity of having that written inside the blockchain itself. So what do I mean by that? For example, if you look at digital art, theoretically, if I wanted to buy a digital Monet picture that might be worth a lot of money from one of the, well, not artists, but one of the official sellers, if you will, I could buy that and we can perform that transaction on my blockchain. What would prevent 10 other folks from taking that same NFT and creating something that's very similar, claiming that they have this, Monet art collection? Well, really the only thing that makes mine unique is the fact that I can prove that I have a transaction coming in from a wallet of that verified seller that makes my purchase authentic, and theirs isn't. And so that is, again, going back to the ledger and the power of the blockchain, being able to have things like proof of authenticity and validity is one of the powerful things that make this what it is. But back in 2021, when that bull run of NFTs started, it was all around like those digital collectibles, things like community-driven projects like Bored Apes, which you might have heard of, or Doodles or others. But at the same time, a lot of these brands, the bigger brands, started to look at NFTs and what they can do with them. And so this is what we're here to talk about today. Like, what are these real world, like large brands trying to do with this technology that goes way beyond just, NFT collectibles? So again, just to recap, right? Verified ownership, new revenue streams, because really and again, I can't share data points on this session. I'll try to bring those into my future sessions. Phygital, for example, that tie-in, that connection between a digital product and a physical product and its digital representation, and I think Jason is going to touch upon that too on Mattel's side. That's something that we do see traction. So being able to see what kind of traction something would have by just being able to get a physical good as a result of having the digital, or the other way around. And also something that creates a lot of brand engagement, positions those brands as thought leaders and innovators in the space. And so these are all reasons why they have been exploring these technologies. Just to touch upon loyalty platforms, again, it touches upon very similar points, right? If you look at today's loyalty points, if you look at airlines or hotel chains or any other loyalty points, they're usually very closed systems and it's very transactional. So, you have a few points, you can redeem them for miles or free nights or whatever. I think the concept is not changing dramatically. It's just that what the Web3 technology enables is to disrupt these loyalty platforms to become something that's a bit more. And so, again, going back to the point of community, right? It's way more community driven. It's way more personalized and has like your own, exclusive content or exclusive benefits that are being unlocked just by holding a specific item. And of course, what I mentioned earlier, that shared ownership, the sense of, hey, we're not just participating in this community, we're actually co-owning this community. The idea is very far-fetched, and I think there's a lot of potential which has not yet been unlocked to get them to where they need to be. All right, so with that, I do want to talk about how you build Web3 applications on AWS. So, first of all, just like any other application, there is a stack, a technology stack, that you need to implement in order to be able to get to where you need to get. And obviously, the top of that would be the application itself. It could be a mobile decentralized finance or DeFi app, or it can be maybe a social app, like a decentralized social app like friend.tech, and many, many other examples. However, in order to implement that, there is a few layers that you would need access to, right? So first of all, of course, is the protocol. So you can choose the blockchain that you would want that particular project to be on. Doesn't necessarily have to be one. There are ways and there are projects today that are interoperating different blockchains and making or trying to create a layer by which you can actually communicate or being able to work across several of them. Then you have the infrastructure layer. Usually, if you wanted to get access to a certain blockchain, you would need to get some sort of an RPC access or other type of API access to that. And that would usually mandate you to run compute. So you'd have to run servers and usually some sort of storage, being able to get all the transactions in and being able to write them. And then sometimes a database that would hold like a local copy of some sorts of the data structures that are being represented. And then on top of that, you would need your APIs to access the data, right? So what's happening in my blockchain? You need to be able to get both real-time as well as historical data, depending on what your application needs and how it performs, right? So it could be that you'd want the history of all transactions of a given wallet, or you'd want to get the current token balance for a specific token. So very different types of data pieces that you would have to get. And then we mentioned key management, which is essential. Without key management, you cannot access your tokens or cryptocurrency. And so, again, being able to have a sort of a wallet solution, which is essentially what's holding your keys and what's managing your keys for you, or some sort of institutional custody if it's more of an institutional use case. And then, of course, on top of that, the application itself. Now, in AWS, we are trying to give you the broadest set of possibilities to be able to run these workloads. So you get to choose. We give customers choice. It can be across just running on infrastructure services from AWS, and that's what I'm referring to as the DIY, do-it-yourself. It can be through leveraging third-party solutions, and it can be through a fully managed service or fully managed services that we are increasingly building to address a lot of these use cases and requirements. So if you look at building it yourself, Maybe before that, just on the vendor side, like, again, for infrastructure, we have a variety of partners, and that's not a comprehensive list, but just some of the ones that we have seen. For data, we do have data providers such as the ones I mentioned earlier, including Morales and Ember Data and Chainalysis and Elliptic and others. And then obviously for wallets, we have wallet as a service solutions such as Magic, who are also powering the Mattel's platform, and we'll talk about that. And Circle with their programmable wallets, and Coinbase with their wallet as a service, but also and Sequence with their Web3 platform that includes a wallet, but then also institutional custody solutions such as Copper and Fireblocks and others as well. So if you wanted to build your any part of this stack on your own, I want to point out that we have the broadest and deepest platform available for you to be able to do so. For example, if you wanted to build a key management solution for a wallet, we offer you services like AWS Nitro Enclaves, who is a closed and secured environment with cryptographic attestation so that you can actually run your mission-critical and sensitive workloads like signing a transaction. We also have a key management service called KMS and hardware modules, AWS HSM, CloudHSM. If you needed to run blockchain infrastructure and create RPC access, and we don't have a managed service for the specific blockchain yet, have no fear. We enable a broad set of EC2 and ECS and EKS, like a very broad set of both architectures across, ARM64 with our Graviton instances and AMD and Intel, but also overlaying container services that will enable you to use containers to run these platforms on. We also have Node Runners, which is a project in GitHub that we launched this year. And this is something that we're planning to continuously increase. It gives you, I'm going to go back to the previous slide. It gives you something we call the Web3 blueprints. So the Web3 blueprints are a one-click deploy CDK package that you can spin up in your own account to address a specific use case. So for example, we have blueprints for running Ethereum nodes on AWS, and we have them for running Solana nodes, and we're going to have them for Polygon and others very soon. And so we're continuously expanding those. While it's not fully managed services yet, it gives you like a very good starting point by just introducing this packaged best practice set of architecture and configuration that's already been vetted, tested, benchmarked, and ready to go for you to be able to start using today. Similarly, we are providing blueprints on other parts of the stack. So for the data layer, we launched a blueprint to be able to run a solution called the Graph on AWS, which is one of those data providers that some of you may want to use. And we also launched key management solutions and blueprints with accompanying blogs to help guide you through how to create your own secure Nitro Enclave wallets, or helping you to create or run a staking service on AWS, and so on and so on. And so this is another way by which we are lowering the barrier for you to be able to get started as we are iterating at the back end to get more of the fully managed services in place for you. So getting to these fully managed services, you might be familiar with Amazon Managed Blockchain, or AMB, who is the suite of products and solutions that we have today for Web3. It's by far going to be the most, removing the high, undifferentiated heavy lifting, and it's, of course, a highly scalable service that provides you with a fast on-chain data through a familiar set of APIs. So if I'm talking about AMB Access is basically our service for providing node management access for a variety of blockchains. So previously to this year, we had Ethereum nodes within AMB. And so this year, we launched our first AMB Access for Bitcoin, which is a multi-tenant, serverless JSON RPC APIs for you to be able to access your Bitcoin nodes and doing so in a very simple and easy-to-use fashion. And so I am very happy to share with you today that we are now having the AMB access for Polygon in public preview, available today in US East. So this will give you the access to Polygon's mainnet and Polygon's, and the Mumbai testnet for the Polygon proof of chain. It's available today, and again, it gives you the same multi-tenant JSON RPC access through these API endpoints and offers like a predictable pay-as-you-go pricing, just like any of the other AMB access services that we're going to provide. And then finally, we talked about the data layer. We, this year in July, have launched AMB Query. So AMB Query basically provides you with serverless access to standardized multi-blockchain datasets with developer-friendly APIs. And that spans across both Bitcoin and Ethereum today. And obviously, we will extend that further with Polygon and future services that we will launch. And again, this will provide you 3 categories today of APIs, from token-related APIs that enable you to provide to get things like token balances, through transaction APIs that will give you a set of like transaction details or on-chain event. For example, we have an API called list transactions to retrieve the transaction history of a given wallet address. And then finally, the contract APIs, which provide you with information about the different contracts like ERC20, ERC721, and other popular contract types, and details such as the type and the deployer address of the contract. And we'd like to hear from you. So please, give this a try when you're building up your applications, and also tell us what would you like us to enable more? Like which other APIs, which more capabilities, which more blockchains? How should we think and prioritize them? Your feedback will be immensely helpful. All right, so I think I spoke enough, and I want to bring about the star of the show. But before I do that, I'm just going to give you a bit of a warm-up.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Jason Tadros, and I lead emerging technology and mixed play for Mattel. I really appreciate you spending your lunch hour with us, so I'll try and start off with one of our exciting numbers. Hot Wheels NFT Garage currently has over 1.5 million NFTs in circulation. And that's in over 15,000 active wallets. And that's just the beginning. Where we really started was probably where most of you have started, is with a Web2 storefront. That Web2 storefront was built to handle flash traffic, where you might sell out within a minute, 2 minutes, but ultimately you're fulfilling in over an hour or maybe several days. And that was a critical moment for us. We realized we had to deliver within minutes. We needed to make sure that we had a Web3 infrastructure that was built to the scale that we were expecting. So we embarked on a transformative journey into the world of digital goods and decentralized ownership of Web3, as Yaniv mentioned. That really unlocks a user's ability to not only participate in the community, but also be a creator. So that led us to the best of both worlds. On one hand, we have an opportunity to have a more sustainable future with digital products, and at the same time, create new opportunities for play. So you might think we would start off with one of our smaller brands, maybe a partnership, but we actually started off with Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels is such a legendary brand and a legendary collection of IP. But really more than that, it's a collector's community. We have collector events, collector moments, and a really deep collector community that spans decades. So we need to ensure our brand's historic voice was up front and center from the start. And that required us to unlock a seamless experience for our end users. Not only our Web 2 users that were familiar with our Web 2 storefronts, but also our Web 3 users that were very familiar with the decentralized ownership and the expectations that came along with that. And finally, we needed to build a solution that actually built upon our digital transformation that we've started in the past by extending our existing investments and building for this digital transformative future. So what we needed was a way to navigate from Web 2 to Web 3. Of course, that requires seamless onboarding with no impacts to user conversion. It's obviously not going to be a great start if we're actually losing the customers that we began with. But we also needed that to integrate easily with our existing federated identity services, things like Auth0, Cognito, and others. And of course, that leads us to the crypto side of the house, where we needed a multi-chain wallet. We wanted to ensure that wherever we were going, that we wouldn't end up in an AOL or some other dead end as technology advances. And that required advancing the entire crypto lifecycle, things like KYC, which you might know in the banking area, but also things like crypto top-up of the wallet, because the wallet requires gas in order to, or credits in order to run those computational transactions. And finally, we needed it to be scalable, both for high volume sales, but also be able to work with federated partner events. And so what we needed was a white label wallet solution. That led us to Magic. Magic provided capability of integration with Auth0, Cognito, Firebase, of course, like I mentioned, but also deep integration and the security that enterprises need with OIDC and OAuth 2.0. And finally, as I mentioned before, we needed support for the future. With over 20 blockchains available, Magic had that out of the gate. And so we had secure authentication, instant wallet creation, scalable NFT minting capabilities, and NFT checkout with fiat on-ramp and off-ramp capabilities coming through the Magic partnership. So what does that unlock? Well, it unlocks tremendous value. We were able to create the Mattel marketplace, a central place where collectors can come, they can buy, they can trade, they can interact with their community, and most of all, they can build their virtual toy collections. This features a full collection catalog, including rarity and edition info, things you might see in a baseball card book, but really allowing our wallet enthusiasts to find the best cards available and reach their achievements and trade for the future. These capabilities allowed us to maintain a direct relationship with our customers, really from the primary sale, which you'll see later in our demos. The primary sale happens on our traditional Web 2 storefront, and that leads us, again, to the marketplace, where we have secondary sales and ongoing communication with our customers. This allows for numerous opportunities for surprise and delight. One of those surprising and delighting things was for customers that, for whatever reason, weren't able to find the card that they were looking for. They weren't able to get that physical opportunity, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So for those customers, we were able to airdrop them, airdrop tokens that could be redeemed for discounted physical goods, and that further bolstered our sales and customer loyalty. And as mentioned, token gating allowed for smoother collaboration across brand initiatives while making it easier to integrate third-party rewards. Think of this as electronic ticketing, but really more than that, you can integrate that for tracking and the entire redemption cycle. So utility-based NFTs ultimately offer a means to gamify those interactions, track engagement, reward loyalty with tangible perks and benefits, both digitally and, of course, physically. So one of the keys that we did is we built a system that would allow us to digital twin the Hot Wheels that everyone knows and loves. Owners of super rare Hot Wheel NFTs were airdrop tokens that could be redeemed for a free physical version of their digital collectible. And these physical versions of the digital collectible are very rare. Small batch runs in the thousands at times, and even smaller. This adds a new dimension to our customer engagement. By unlocking pre-sale and post-sale, as I mentioned, we really can get down to what new opportunities are available at a low cost. With digital representations of physical goods, we can reduce that time to market. And our goal is ensuring our NFT collectibles both provide that digital utility and, of course, the physical value that all of our customers know and love. So that builds upon our strengths: scale, efficiency, and of course, manufacturing. But more than that, we want to make sure that we anchored each of these capabilities in a platform that we use throughout our organization, the Mattel Connected Products Platform. The Mattel Connected Products Platform drives all of our mixed play initiatives, and so each one of these components we wanted to build following those tenets, with security and privacy by design built in from the get-go, as well as, of course, reuse, cloud hyperscaling, and all the core design principles that you see in cloud today. That means when we build things, we don't build it for a single brand, we build it for all of our brands. This unlocks tremendous value with new innovative ways to interact with both with our physical and digital goods, and in across our partner ecosystems. And this allowed us to build a tight relationship with our e-commerce team and unlock new opportunities every month and every year. We could build and rapidly deploy limited edition, new and exciting brand activations, things you might have seen recently, like Fast and Furious, and our Boss Beauties Barbie initiatives, as well as right now, ongoing, a Lamborghini Mini collection. And of course, we're able to do things where we can donate a portion of the proceeds and again, have that community connection. We donated over $250,000 to the Barbie Dream Gap project, and we also connected with the Boss Beauties Foundation as part of that. So what we're really building is more than just a Web 2 store or even a Web 3 store. It's a new way of community engagement. Things you might hear about is an NFT is the new cookie. We really see it like that. We see this as an opportunity to go even further. So some results and outcomes of where we've gone so far. Of course, the platform is very much in demand. It's scaling, and it's evolving. And we'll talk about some new opportunities there as well. So far, we've had 6 sold-out series launched to date. Pretty tremendous for a new product line, and frankly, in a down market, right? And that validation has allowed us to understand what our consumers wanted and to build unique solutions around it. Of course, reusability, as I mentioned, enables scale, and building a platform for reusability has enabled that scale. The platform is part of our core ecosystem for digital goods, and allows us to scale our business out even further in the future. So where do we go now and into the future? Well, of course, we embrace the evolution. Building and playing, just a few of the opportunities, whether you're starting your collector's journey or eager to compete with custom-built racers, our dedicated design teams are continuously innovating and building experiences on top of these new platforms. And so again, a heartfelt thanks goes out to all of our partners. I know we didn't mention a lot of them, but they are partners of AWS as well. And so I'll give special thanks to Magic, Rarible, and AWS for their support today. I really look forward to playing and building with you in the coming year. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to help answer them later. Thank you.